A cheap hooker? My husband screamed, spitting in my face in front of the international investors. He laughed, satisfied, thinking I was just some worthless, small-town wife. But the entire room held its breath as the CEO knelt to kiss my hand with reverence, and my husband's face went ghost white when he announced who I truly was. The clatter of a fork against a marble tabletop shattered the morning silence in the lavish dining room. Ethan Price, a man in his early 30s in a tailored suit that hugged his frame, stared venomously at the breakfast before him. Toast? Again? Ethan scoffed, shoving the plate away so hard it nearly fell off the table. Do you have any idea what day it is, Catherine? Today determines my entire career. I need energy, not bird food like this. In the corner of the room, Catherine Kate Anderson simply lowered her head. The woman wore a clean but faded pair of sweatpants and an old t-shirt. Her hair was thrown into a messy bun, her face bare of any makeup. No one would ever suspect that beneath this simple exterior, she was the sole heiress to the business empire where her husband worked. I'm sorry, Ethan. I was going to make you the pancakes and bacon you love, but we ran out of propane for the stove, and the delivery service is running late, Kate answered softly. Her voice was gentle, calming, but to Ethan, it sounded like a pathetic whine. Ethan shot up from his chair, the legs screeching against the floor. He strode over to Kate, grabbing her chin with his strong fingers. His gaze was sharp, filled with contempt. Listen to me, Catherine. Tonight is the gala dinner to welcome Mr. Beaumont, a crucial international investor for the Sterling Group. If I can win him over, the vice president position is mine. And I'm warning you, Ethan hissed. Don't you dare show up there. Don't even think about calling me. Kate looked into her husband's eyes, a pang of pain in her chest that she kept tightly hidden. I'm your wife, Ethan. Isn't it normal for a wife to support her husband at a company event? Your friends' wives will all be there. Ethan laughed, a dry, condescending sound. He released her chin as if disgusted by the feel of her skin. Look in the mirror, Kate. Just look, Ethan said, pointing to a large mirror in the hallway. Look at yourself. You're plain. A small-town nobody. My friends' wives are socialites. They're stylish, classy. If I brought you, I'd be a laughingstock. Mr. Beaumont is a sophisticated European who values image. If he finds out the wife of a Sterling Group manager looks like a housekeeper, my reputation will be ruined. Kate clenched her fists behind her back. If only you knew, Ethan, Mr. Beaumont flew all the way from London because I personally requested it via email. Kate screamed internally, but her lips remained sealed. Forget it. I'll get breakfast at the office. Felicia has probably already made some decent coffee, Ethan grumbled, grabbing his briefcase. And remember what I said. Stay home. Don't embarrass me. The front door slammed shut. Kate let out a long sigh. She walked to the window and watched Ethan's car drive away, her eyes drifting to the calendar on the wall. Today was their 3rd wedding anniversary. Ethan hadn't even remembered. The atmosphere at the Sterling Group's headquarters was electric. On the 25th floor, the marketing division was tense. Everyone knew how critical the partnership with Beaumont Corp was. Ethan sat in his large office chair, massaging his throbbing temples. The door opened, and a woman walked in wearing a tight pencil skirt that ended high above her knees, a silk blouse with the top buttons deliberately undone, and the overwhelming scent of expensive perfume. It was Felicia, Ethan's secretary, and the woman who had secretly occupied his heart for the past year. Stressed, boss? Felicia purred, placing a cup of coffee on Ethan's desk. She intentionally leaned lower than necessary as she set down the mug. Ethan immediately grabbed the coffee and took a greedy sip. My wife is completely useless, Fel. She ruined my mood first thing in the morning. Who does she think she is, wanting to come to the gala tonight? Felicia chuckled, perching casually on the edge of Ethan's desk. She twirled a pen between her fingers. Oh, Ethan. Can you imagine if she showed up in one of those cheap dresses from a department store? I'd be embarrassed for you. You're a future vice president. Your partner should be someone who can boost your career, someone you can talk to about business, about stocks, not about the price of groceries. Felicia's words were like gasoline on the fire of Ethan's ego. You're right. Sometimes I regret getting married in such a hurry. I thought a simple girl from the country would be obedient and calming, but she's just become a burden. Don't worry, darling, Felicia whispered, her hand now stroking Ethan's shoulder. I'll be by your side tonight. I bought a stunning maroon gown that's guaranteed to impress Mr. Beaumont. We'll look like a power couple. Ethan smiled, pulling Felicia's hand to his lips and kissing it. Thank God for you, Fel. You're my savior. Oh, and the presentation for tomorrow? All set, Felicia answered with a naughty wink. I tittied up those negative sales figures from last quarter to show a profit. Mr. Beaumont will never suspect a thing. Meanwhile, back in their rented apartment, Kate was cleaning Ethan's spare suit jacket from the closet. As she reached into a pocket, her fingers brushed against a piece of paper. A receipt for a jewelry purchase. A diamond necklace for $5,000. The date of purchase was last week. Kate froze. Last week, Ethan had told her he didn't have money to help pay for her mother's medical bills back home. Kate had been forced to sell the only thing she had left from her grandmother, a small gold ring. But Ethan could afford a necklace this expensive, and Kate had certainly never received it. Who was this for, Ethan? Kate whispered, her eyes welling with tears. She wasn't a fool. Her instincts had been screaming at her for a long time, but she had endured it all because she wanted to prove to her late father that she could be loved as the ordinary Kate, not as Kate the heiress. Today, however, that conviction began to crumble. Kate picked up her old, simple smartphone. She typed a short text to a number she hadn't contacted in 3 years. Mr. Sterling, please prepare the asset transfer documents. I think the time has come. Night had fallen. The Grand Majestic Hotel, the most luxurious 5-star hotel in New York City, glittered. A line of luxury cars dropped off elite guests at the main ballroom. The ambiance was elegant, with crystal chandeliers and the soft melody of a string quartet. Ethan looked dashing in his black tuxedo, standing beside Felicia, who was breathtaking in her red gown. They looked like a perfect match, laughing as they greeted guests. But behind his smile, Ethan's face was growing pale. He kept patting his jacket pocket, his breathing becoming labored. "What's wrong, E?" Felicia whispered, noticing his anxiety. "My inhaler fell. I left it at home," Ethan rasped, panic setting in. "Damn it. I was so nervous I forgot to put it in my pocket, my chest. It's getting tight. Oh, God. What should we do? Should I have a courier from the office get it? Too long. My apartment is closer than the office." But Ethan hesitated. He didn't want to contact Kate. Yet, the tightness in his chest was worsening. Ethan had a history of severe asthma, which could be fatal when triggered by high stress, and tonight his stress level was at its peak. With a trembling hand, he sent a text to Kate. It wasn't a polite request for help, but a command. "Bring the asthma inhaler from the drawer on my nightstand to the Grand Majestic Hotel now. Leave it with the front desk in the lobby. Do not come up. Do not look for me. Just drop it off and go home." Back at the apartment, Kate had just finished washing the dishes when the message came through. She read it with a sinking heart. Her husband was sick, but even in an emergency, he was still threatening her. Without a second thought, Kate grabbed the inhaler. She didn't change her clothes. She was still wearing a simple, long-sleeved blue dress she often wore to the corner store. She ordered an Uber, knowing it was the fastest way through the NYC traffic. "Just hold on, Ethan. Please don't let anything happen to you," Kate murmured in the back of the car, speeding through the night. Her love for him was foolish, she thought. Despite all the pain, she couldn't bear the thought of him suffering. Arriving at the magnificent hotel lobby, Kate stepped inside. Her presence immediately drew stares. Among the women in silk gowns and men in suits, Kate, with her simple dress, looked starkly out of place. A security guard stopped her. "Excuse me, ma'am. Deliveries use the side entrance." Kate looked the guard dead in the eye, a sliver of the authority she had long suppressed emerging. "I am the wife of Ethan Price, a manager with the Sterling Group, which is holding an event here. This is emergency medication. If my husband collapses because you're holding me up, Will you take responsibility?" The guard was taken aback. There was a firmness in this plain woman's voice that made him falter. Right this way?" "Ma'am, the front desk is over there." Kate walked quickly towards the reception desk. But just then, an elevator opened, and a group of people emerged. Ethan, Felicia, and an older, distinguished-looking man with a kind but authoritative face. It was Mr. Beaumont. They were apparently heading to the lobby's smoking area outside. Ethan's eyes widened in horror when he saw the familiar figure in the blue dress standing in the middle of the grand lobby. His heart felt like it stopped beating not from asthma, but from sheer mortification. Ethan froze. He saw Mr. Beaumont follow his gaze. The investor squinted, looking at Kate, who was holding the inhaler and panting slightly. "Ethan, who is that woman? She seems to be looking at you," Mr. Beaumont asked in English. Cold sweat trickled down Ethan's back. Felicia, standing next to him, immediately whispered devilishly, "Oh no, Cinderella showed up. If Mr. Beaumont finds out your taste is that low, he'll doubt your class." Panic and ego took over. Ethan rushed towards Kate before she could approach Mr. Beaumont. He grabbed her arm harshly and dragged her behind a large pillar, away from the crowd but still in clear view of Mr. Beaumont, who watched with a puzzled expression. "Are you deaf?" Ethan hissed, his voice trembling with rage. "I told you to leave it at the front desk. Why are you standing here like some beggar asking for a handout?" Kate winced from the pain in her arm. She held out the inhaler. "Ethan, I was worried. There was traffic. I was afraid the receptionist would be too slow to get it to you. Here's your medicine." Ethan slapped her hand away, sending the inhaler clattering to the marble floor. "Excuses," he snapped. He no longer cared about his medicine. His pride was too severely wounded. "You did this on purpose, didn't you? You came here so everyone would know you're my wife. You wanted to embarrass me in front of my boss? You ungrateful woman." "Ethan, I swear to God, no. I just—" "Shut up!" Ethan was seeing red. He saw Felicia in the distance, giving him a signal that Mr. Beaumont was walking closer. Ethan had to sever all ties with this woman in front of him, right now, to avoid any misunderstanding. "Listen closely," Ethan said loudly, intentionally making sure Mr. Beaumont, now just a few steps away, could hear him. "I don't know you. Stop stalking me." Kate was stunned. "Ethan, I'm your wife." "Wife?" Ethan laughed contemptuously. He looked at Kate's face with pure, unadulterated disgust. "Look at yourself. How could I possibly have a wife as shabby as you? You're nothing but a cheap hooker I used once, and now you're trying to blackmail me, right?" Kate's eyes widened. Her heart shattered into a million pieces. Her husband had just called her a prostitute, in public. As if that wasn't enough, to fully convince Mr. Beaumont that he had absolutely no connection to this low-class woman, Ethan did the unthinkable. He gathered saliva in his mouth and then spat directly onto Kate's left cheek. "Get out of here, you trash," Ethan yelled. "A cheap hooker like you doesn't deserve to set foot in this hotel." The world seemed to stop spinning for Kate. She could feel the warm, disgusting liquid sliding down her cheek. She could hear the shocked gasps from a few passing guests. She saw Felicia smiling triumphantly in the background, and she saw Mr. Beaumont. The older man had his hand over his mouth, his eyes wide with an unreadable expression, a mixture of shock and fury. Ethan turned back to Mr. Beaumont, his face instantly morphing into a fake, friendly smile. "My apologies, Mr. Beaumont. Just a crazy beggar off the streets. You know how it is in New York. They claim to know wealthy people to get money. Shall we continue outside?" Ethan put an arm around Mr. Beaumont's shoulder, trying to lead him away. But Mr. Beaumont didn't budge. His eyes were still fixed on Kate. Kate didn't cry. Strangely, the tears that flowed so easily when Ethan yelled at her at home were now completely dry. The humiliation was too profound. It bypassed sadness and struck the very core of her self-worth. Slowly, with a grace and composure that completely contradicted the small-town girl image she had cultivated, Kate pulled a handkerchief from the pocket of her dress. She wiped the spit from her cheek. One clean swipe. She did not bow her head. She lifted her chin, straightened her back, which had been stooped for so long under the weight of compliance. She looked at Ethan's back as he was about to walk away. "Ethan Price!" Kate called out. Her voice wasn't loud, not a shout, but it had a cold resonance that sent a chill down the spine of anyone who heard it. Ethan stopped. He turned around, annoyed. "What now? Haven't you had N?" His words died in his throat when he saw Kate's expression. It wasn't the look of a pleading wife. It was the look of a queen observing an insect. "Remember this second, Ethan," Kate said flatly, her eyes boring into his. "Remember the taste of the spit you wasted on me, because from this moment on, you will never see me as your wife again. You just threw away the only person in this world who loved you unconditionally." Ethan was momentarily stunned. A strange aura emanated from his wife, but his arrogance quickly took over again. "Ha! Just get lost." Kate shifted her gaze to Mr. Beaumont. She gave him a polite, classy nod of respect, then turned around. She walked out of the lobby with a steady, determined stride. She didn't look back. Once she reached the quiet, deserted valet area, Kate took out her phone. Her hand wasn't shaking. Her heart was frozen solid. She pressed the call button for Mr. Sterling's number. "Hello? Good evening, Mrs. Price." A deep, respectful voice answered from the other end. "Good evening, Mr. Sterling," Kate replied, her voice weary but firm. "Regarding my plan to reveal my identity." "Yes, ma'am." "Shall we postpone it until next month as planned?" "No," Kate cut him off. "Tomorrow. Do it tomorrow morning. At the Board of Directors meeting." "Very good, ma'am. Are there any specific instructions?" Kate looked up at the dark, starless New York sky. The image of Ethan spitting on her flashed in her mind. "Make sure Ethan Price is there, and make sure he has a seat in the front row. I want him to see clearly just who the cheap hooker he spat on tonight really is." "Understood, ma'am. I will make the arrangements immediately." The call ended. Kate lowered her phone. A sleek, black luxury sedan, not an Uber, pulled up silently and stopped right in front of her. A uniformed chauffeur got out and opened the rear door. It was the private car service she had always refused, preferring to take the subway or a taxi. This time, Kate got in without hesitation. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked. "To my father's penthouse," Kate answered coldly. "Ethan's apartment is no longer my home." The car sped into the night, leaving Ethan still laughing in the hotel lobby, celebrating his hollow victory, completely unaware that the apocalypse of his career had just begun. Ethan returned to their rented apartment well after midnight, his spirits soaring. The alcohol from the after-party with a few colleagues had him slightly unsteady, but a triumphant smile never left his lips. The image of Mr. Beaumont patting his shoulder before leaving was still fresh in his mind. He was sure his position was secure. He had handled the incident with the beggar in the lobby perfectly. "Catherine!" Ethan yelled as he opened the front door. He kicked off his shoes carelessly. "Where are you? Make me some hot ginger tea. My head is killing me." Silence. No answer. Usually, by this time, Kate would come scurrying out of the bedroom, her face puffy from sleep, but her hands ready to get him a glass of warm water. Ethan flipped on the living room light. Empty. "Still sulking, I see," Ethan muttered with a snort. He headed to the bedroom, ready to berate his wife for daring to ignore her husband's command. But when he opened the door, the sight before him made him pause. The bed was made, too neatly made, as if no one had slept in it. The closet door, slightly ajar, revealed a dark, empty space. Ethan frowned, his curiosity overpowering his drowsiness. He pulled the closet door wide open. Empty. Kate's cheap dresses, the cotton nightgowns Ethan often mocked, the simple headscarves with faded colors, all gone. All that remained were plastic hangers, swaying gently in the breeze from a window left open. Ethan moved to the vanity table. Also empty. The drugstore powder Kate used, the plastic comb, the framed photo from their wedding that usually sat there, all gone. "Ha!" Ethan laughed shortly, a sound dripping with condescension. "She actually left. Seriously." He walked to the kitchen. On the clean dining table, there was no letter, No dramatic note like in a soap opera. There was only the spare house key, placed neatly beside a vase of wilted flowers. Instead of panicking or feeling guilty, Ethan felt a strange wave of relief wash over him. He slumped onto the sofa, spreading his arms wide. "Good," he said to the ceiling. "It's good you finally realized where you belong. Better than me having to go through the trouble of kicking you out or dealing with a messy divorce. What a drama queen. She'll probably come back crying at the gate in a day or two when her money runs out." Ethan imagined Kate, lost and wandering the streets, while he would be promoted to vice president tomorrow. The contrast in their fates made him feel superior. He didn't need Kate. He had Felicia, he had a career, and he had a bright future. Kate was just a gloomy part of his past that had conveniently thrown itself in the trash. That night, Ethan slept soundly, without a single worry. He had no idea that the trash he was laughing at was currently sleeping in a king-sized bed worth tens of thousands of dollars in a penthouse, meticulously planning his downfall with the precision of a master strategist. The morning sun shone brightly over New York City, as if fueling Ethan's ambition. He was impeccably dressed in his most expensive navy suit. He had a clean shave, wore designer cologne, and admired his reflection in the car's rearview mirror. "Who's handsome?" "You are," he told himself. "Who's the next VP of the Sterling Group?" "You are." His phone rang. My Future flashed on the screen his contact name for Felicia. "Hello, darling," Ethan answered cheerfully. "Morning, big boss," Felicia's playful voice chirped. "Where are you?" Mr. Sterling moved the board meeting up to 9 a.m. "Something about an urgent announcement." "On my way." "Urgent? Ha, it must be about my promotion." Maybe Mr. Sterling couldn't wait to announce it in front of all the division heads. "Of course. Who else brought in Mr. Beaumont but you? Oh, by the way, how's your wife? Any more drama?" Ethan laughed freely. "The drama is over, Fel. She walked out last night, took all her junk with her. The apartment is clean, my life is clean." "Seriously? Oh my God, that's the best news of the year. That means we can celebrate your promotion tonight at my place without any annoying phone calls." "You got it. Wait for me in the lobby." Upon arriving at the Sterling Tower, Ethan strode in with a confident gait. He greeted the receptionists, security guards, and junior staff with a slightly arrogant smile. He felt as if the building's aura was already his. Soon he wouldn't just be a manager. He'd be one of the rulers on the top floor. In front of the main conference room on the 40th floor, Felicia was waiting. She held a folder with Ethan's presentation materials. "You look incredibly fresh," Felicia complimented, adjusting his tie. "I have to. Today's a big day." The conference room doors opened. Inside, the atmosphere was different than usual. The air conditioning felt colder. The long mahogany table was already surrounded by senior directors with tense expressions. Normally, they would be relaxed and joking before a meeting. But today they sat upright, silent, occasionally whispering seriously among themselves. Ethan walked in confidently, pulling out the chair in the middle row he usually occupied. Felicia sat in an auxiliary chair behind him to take notes. "Good morning, Mr. Davis, Miss Chen." Ethan greeted the directors of HR and finance. They only gave him curt nods. Their expressions were strange, not of admiration, but of pity or caution. Ethan didn't think much of it. He figured they were just envious that a young manager like him was about to leapfrog them. "Ethan," Mr. Davis called out softly, "have you heard the rumors about the new majority shareholder?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "New shareholder? I thought the majority stake was still held by the mysterious founding family." "It is. They're saying the main representative is coming in person today." Mr. Sterling himself went down to the lobby to greet them. Ethan's heart pounded with excitement. "Wow, that's great. It means they'll see my presentation on the Beaumont Corp deal firsthand. Perfect timing to show off my achievements." Ethan had absolutely no bad premonitions. In his mind, the world was revolving around him. He opened his laptop, looking at the presentation slides that Felicia had polished with a few manipulated figures here and there to make them look even more fantastic. He was ready to conquer the world. At 9 a.m., Sharp, the double doors of the conference room swung open. Mr. Sterling, the CEO who was usually feared for his sternness, entered with a hurried but respectful step. His old but charismatic face was beaming, yet filled with a profound deference. "Good morning, fellow directors and management," Mr. Sterling's baritone voice echoed. Everyone in the room stood up in unison, including Ethan. "Please, be seated." Except Mr. Sterling paused, his eyes sweeping the room and lingering for a moment on Ethan's face with an unreadable look. "When I introduce our guest of honor." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He was sure this guest of honor had to be Mr. Beaumont, here to sign the contract. Ethan puffed out his chest, preparing his best smile. "Today is a historic day for the Sterling Group," Mr. Sterling continued. "For the past 5 years, since the passing of our founder, Mr. Winthrop, the seat of the chairman has been left vacant. The majority shares have been managed by a trust fund. Speculation has been rampant. Many have asked who the true heir is." The room was utterly silent. Even the hum of the air conditioner was audible. Today, that question is answered. The sole heir of the Winthrop family, the rightful owner of 60% of the Sterling Group's shares, has decided to step out of the shadows and lead us directly. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. A sole heir. He had always imagined it was a son studying abroad or something of that sort. Mr. Sterling took a step back, clearing the way to the still open doorway. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture of utmost respect. "Let us welcome our new chairwoman of the board." The sound of footsteps echoed from the marble corridor outside. Click, clack, click, clack. The sound of stiletto heels striking the floor with a steady, intimidating rhythm. Not a hurried pace, but the pace of someone who knew that time belonged to her. Ethan craned his neck, eager to see this powerful figure. Behind him, Felicia was also curious, whispering, "Must be some fierce old socialite." The footsteps stopped at the threshold. The figure stepped into the room. A young woman. Her tall, slender body was clad in a perfectly tailored ivory Gucci blazer, paired with elegant black trousers that draped over a pair of fiery red heels. Her jet-black hair was styled in soft waves, framing a face hidden behind large, dark sunglasses. The luxurious scent of Baccarat Rouge perfume filled the room, replacing the stale smell of coffee. The woman stopped at the head of the table, next to Mr. Sterling. She slowly removed her sunglasses. Ethan squinted. That face, the structure of that jaw, those lips. His brain refused to process the information his eyes were sending. Impossible. Just a resemblance. Lots of people look alike. But then the woman turned her head slightly. Her eyes swept across the entire room and stopped, locking directly onto Ethan's. It was the same cold, piercing gaze from the hotel lobby last night. Ethan stumbled backward, his chair scraping loudly. Kate? Ethan's voice, whispering her name, was audible in the silent room. Felicia, sitting behind him, jumped in her seat. Her eyes bulged as she stared at the woman at the front of the room. Is that your wife?" Felicia stammered, her face ashen. How is she so different?" Ethan didn't answer. He felt like he was trapped in a nightmare. He stood up reflexively, his finger pointing shakily at Kate. His bruised ego and confusion melded into a foolish rage. "What are you doing here?" Ethan yelled, forgetting he was in a board meeting. "You snuck in again! Security!" Why was this crazy woman allowed to get this far? Several directors turned to look at Ethan in horror. The situation descended into chaos. "Security! Get her out!" "She's an imposter!" Ethan shouted again, trying to salvage what he believed was his wife's ridiculous prank. "Kate, go home now. Stop embarrassing me at my office." Kate didn't move. She wasn't angry, nor was she afraid. She just stood calmly, watching Ethan throw a tantrum like a small child. The corner of her lips lifted slightly into a thin, cynical smile. "Enough, Ethan Price!" Mr. Sterling's booming voice thundered, instantly silencing Ethan. Ethan turned to Mr. Sterling, bewildered. "But, sir, this is my wife. She's just a regular housewife who's probably stressed out. Let me drag her." "Shut your mouth," Mr. Sterling cut him off with a low, dangerous tone. Mr. Sterling then turned to face Kate. In front of Ethan's own eyes, in front of Felicia, and in front of the entire board of directors, Mr. Sterling, the most powerful man in the company, did the unimaginable. He bowed deeply, a full 90 degrees of respect. Then he took Kate's right hand and kissed the back of it. Not a perfunctory kiss, but a reverent one, like a loyal subject to their queen. "Welcome back to your home, Miss Catherine Anderson Winthrop," Mr. Sterling said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Please forgive the insolence of my employee. The entire Sterling Group awaits your command." Ethan's world shattered. The floor beneath him felt like it was spinning. Winthrop. The last name of the company's founder was Winthrop, Catherine Anderson. Winthrop. Kate gently withdrew her hand from Mr. Sterling's grasp. She looked at Ethan, who was now frozen, his mouth hanging open like a fish out of water. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling." Kate's voice was clear, authoritative, and full of control, a world away from the meek whisper Ethan was used to hearing when she asked for grocery money. Kate walked slowly to the seat at the very head of the table, the chairman's seat that had been empty for so long. She placed her Hermes bag on the table. The soft thud echoed in Ethan's ears like a judge's gavel. She sat down, crossing her legs elegantly, then looked straight at Ethan. "Sit down, Ethan," Kate commanded. Her tone was casual, but it held a power that made Ethan's knees buckle, causing him to collapse back into his chair. The silence in the room was so thick you could hear the wall clock ticking. No one dared to breathe too loudly. All eyes were on Kate, then darted fearfully towards Ethan, who was now sweating bullets. The door opened again. This time, Mr. Beaumont walked in. A foolish glimmer of hope sparked in Ethan. Maybe Mr. Beaumont doesn't know. Maybe he can help me. But that hope was obliterated when Mr. Beaumont saw Kate. The man's face broke into a wide smile as he extended his hands and walked quickly towards her. "Oh, Miss Winthrop, it's been a long time," Mr. Beaumont exclaimed. Kate stood briefly to accept his handshake warmly. "Hello, John. Thank you for playing along with my little drama last night." "My pleasure," Mr. Beaumont chuckled, then glanced at Ethan with undisguised disgust. "I nearly threw up watching your husband's acting." "Ah, my apologies." "Soon-to-be ex-husband, I presume. The man who spits in public." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. Mr. Beaumont knew. He knew everything. All this time, he had been nothing but a clown on a stage Kate had created. Kate sat back down. She pressed a button on the table's intercom. "Secretary, please bring in some mineral water and tissues. My husband seems to be sweating quite a lot." The remark was met with stifled laughter from several directors who were starting to understand the situation. Ethan wanted the earth to swallow him whole. Felicia, behind him, had her head bowed low, trying to hide her face behind her folder, her body trembling violently. "All right," Kate said, opening a folder in front of her. "I don't want to waste any more time. I heard there's an important presentation today from the marketing division regarding the Beaumont project." Kate looked at Ethan, her gaze sharp, stripping away the last shreds of his dignity. "Please, Manager Ethan Price, come to the front," Kate said flatly. Ethan couldn't move. His legs felt like lead, his tongue was tied. "Why the silence?" Kate asked, raising a single eyebrow. "Weren't you so confident this morning? You said your wife was a worthless country bumpkin. Now prove that you are more useful than this country bumpkin." Kate, Ethan stammered, his voice hoarse and pathetic. "In this room, you will address me as Madam Chairwoman," Kate cut in sharply, or Miss Winthrop. "I am not Kate, the stupid wife you can yell at about breakfast." Kate leaned forward, her intense gaze making Ethan's courage shrink to the size of an atom. "Step forward and present your performance. I want to see just how great the man who dared to call the owner of this company a cheap hooker really is." "Mr." Sterling cleared his throat loudly. "Mr. Price," he said sternly, "the chairwoman has given you an order. Comply or leave this room with a termination letter, effective immediately." With legs shaking uncontrollably, Ethan forced himself to stand. He grabbed his laptop with hands slick with sweat. He walked to the presentation podium like a man on death row walking to the gallows. As he plugged in the projector cable, his hand knocked over a glass of water, soaking his pants. He looked utterly pathetic, wet, trembling, and terrified. Kate watched the scene unfold without a shred of pity. To her, the man standing there was no longer her husband. He was just a cruel stranger. "Begin," Kate commanded coldly. And Ethan's real nightmare had just begun. The projector's light beamed onto the white screen, displaying colorful bar graphs that were supposed to show the profit projections for the Beaumont Corp partnership. But to Ethan, the graphs looked like abstract lines dancing mockingly before him. So. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to swallow the lump that felt like sand. His voice cracked. He held the laser pointer with a hand that shook so violently the red dot on the screen darted around like a panicked fly. "So, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, our market potential will increase." Ethan stopped. He had forgotten his script. His mind was a complete blank. Usually, before an important presentation, he would practice in front of Kate. Kate would correct his intonation, fix his grammar, and even provide clever insights that made Ethan sound brilliant. Now, that private tutor was sitting in the chairman's seat, watching him with the eyes of a hawk ready to strike. "Increase by what percentage, Mr. Price?" Kate cut in suddenly, her voice flat but sharp enough to slice through the room. Ethan flinched. He scrambled to look at his notes. 20%, ma'am. I mean, Madam Chairwoman, 20%. Kate let out a small laugh that didn't reach her eyes. She picked up a document from a stack on her desk and slid it smoothly across the long table. It stopped directly in front of Mr. Davis, the Director of Finance. "Mr. Davis, please read the real figures on page 5 of the internal audit report I received this morning," Kate commanded. Mr. Davis opened the folder, his eyes widening in shock. He looked at Ethan, then back at the paper. "It says here the real projection, based on actual field data, is -5%. There are also indications of a 30% markup in operational costs that cannot be accounted for." The room erupted in whispers. Ethan's face went from pale to beet red. That must be a miscalculation," he stammered, panicked. He turned to Felicia behind him. "Felicia, you're the one who made the data, right? Explain." Felicia, who had been hiding her face in fear, now looked up, her eyes darting around for an escape. "I only inputted the data you gave me, sir." "Mr. Price was the one who told me to change the negative figures to green, so they would look good for the investors." "Liar!" Ethan screamed. "You were the one who said we had to beautify it." "Enough," Kate interjected. She stood up and slowly walked towards the projector screen, standing next to Ethan. The scent of her expensive perfume enveloped him, making him feel even smaller. "Do you know how I knew the data was fake, Ethan?" Kate asked, just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Because for the past 3 years, every night while you were snoring, I was the one who opened your laptop. I was the one who fixed your idiotic proposals that were full of fatal errors. I was the one who made you look competent in the eyes of this company." Kate looked at Ethan with a painful, pitying gaze. "But last night, I wasn't there to clean up your mess. And look at the result. Without me, you are nothing but an empty suit making a lot of noise." Ethan staggered back a step, his knees weak. The truth hit him harder than any physical blow. His entire career had been built on the back of the woman he had spat on. The atmosphere in the boardroom had now turned into a courtroom. Mr. Beaumont, sitting beside Mr. Sterling, shook his head with profound disappointment. "Mr. Sterling," he said in English, "I cannot put my money in a company that employs a fraudulent manager like this. If it weren't for my deep respect for Miss Winthrop, I would have walked out by now." "We understand, sir," Mr. Sterling replied quickly. He glared at Ethan with fury. Ethan Price, for the act of corporate data manipulation, attempted fraud against an investor, and unethical behavior. "Wait, sir," Ethan interrupted. Tears began to well in his eyes. He no longer cared about his pride. He dropped to his knees on the floor. "Please, sir, don't fire me. This is all a misunderstanding. I have a lot on my mind. My wife. I mean, Miss Winthrop. Do not use my name to seek sympathy. Kate cut him off coldly, returning to her seat. Mr. Sterling, proceed according to legal protocol. You are terminated. Effective immediately, with cause, Mr. Sterling continued firmly. And because this constitutes corporate fraud, your severance package is forfeited. We will also be placing your name on the industry-wide blacklist. You will not be able to work for any reputable company in this city. And you, Felicia. Kate's voice now turned to the secretary, who was trying to sneak out of the room. Felicia froze. I don't know anything, ma'am. I was just a victim, following Mr. Price's orders. Kate smirked, holding up another sheet of paper. Is that so? A report on petty cash expenditures from the marketing department, fictitious purchases of office supplies, client entertainment expenses with receipts from beauty salons and designer handbag boutiques. A total of $50,000 over the last year. Felicia's face turned ashen. Her red lipstick no longer looked seductive but like a smear of blood on a corpse. You think I don't know that those knockoff designer bags you flaunt on Instagram were bought with company money? Kate asked sharply. You are terminated, and our legal team will be sending you a demand for restitution. If the full amount is not returned within 48 hours, you will go to jail. Security, Mr. Sterling called out. 2 burly security guards entered. Without a word, they grabbed Ethan and Felicia by the arms. Let go of me! I'm a manager here! Ethan struggled, but his strength was no match. They were dragged out of the conference room, down the long corridor, and into the elevator. On every floor, the elevator stopped. Other employees stared at them with a mixture of confusion and disgust. The climax came in the main lobby. In front of the receptionists, visitors, and passing staff, Ethan and Felicia were literally pushed out of the building's revolving doors. Their employee ID cards were forcibly taken and snapped in half before their eyes. Ethan fell onto the hot asphalt of the Fifth Avenue sidewalk. The afternoon sun burned his skin, but the cold in his heart was far more piercing. He stared up at the skyscraper that had been his professional home for 5 years. The glass doors were closed to him. He was an outsider. Ethan was still sitting on the sidewalk. His tie was askew, his expensive suit stained with street grime. Beside him, Felicia was crying hysterically, beating his arm. "This is all your fault, you idiot," Felicia shrieked. "Because of you, I'm fired. Because of you, I'm going to jail. You said your wife was just a maid. It turns out she owns the whole damn company. You stupid, stupid man." Ethan shoved her hand away. "Shut up. I was just as surprised as you. How was I supposed to know she was some rich heiress? She's been living like she was broke our entire marriage. So what now? I have car payments. I have credit card debt. Figure it out yourself." Ethan scrambled to his feet, brushing off his pants with trembling hands. His brain started to work, searching for a way out. Or more accurately, for denial. This has to be a nightmare. Or a test. Yeah, this must be a test of our love, Ethan mumbled to himself, his voice sounding unhinged. Kate is crazy about me. She would never destroy me like this. She's just trying to teach me a lesson for what happened last night. Ethan fumbled in his pocket for his car keys. I have to go home. I have to talk to her at our apartment. If I apologize and cry, she'll melt. She's a weak woman, after all. He ran to the visitor parking garage. His employee access had already been blocked and sped away, weaving recklessly through the traffic towards their apartment. When he arrived, Ethan was shocked to see a moving truck parked in front of the building. Several men in blue uniforms were carrying out the sofa, the television, the refrigerator items Ethan had bought on credit. Hey! Who are you people? Are you robbing me?" Ethan shouted, running to block the movers. A man in a neat uniform, holding a clipboard, approached Ethan. "Mr. Ethan Price?" "Yes, I own this apartment. Put my things back." "I'm sorry, sir," the man said flatly. "This apartment is a property asset of Sterling Realty, a subsidiary of the Sterling Group. You have been occupying it as a company-provided benefit. Since your employment has been terminated, the benefit has been revoked." "But the furniture, I bought that myself." According to our records, all furnishings were purchased using a supplementary credit card in the name of Miss Catherine Anderson. She has instructed us to donate all items to a local charity. Here is the authorization form." Ethan read the paper shoved in his face. Kate's signature, firm and legal. No, it can't be. Ethan stumbled backward, hitting the railing. "Then where am I supposed to live? My clothes?" "Your clothes, sir, have been packed into those 2 black trash bags," the man said, pointing to a corner. "You should probably take them before the city sanitation truck comes by." Ethan stared at the 2 black plastic bags. His entire life, his expensive suits, his shoe collection was now just a pile of garbage. Desperation began to morph into mental terror. Ethan grabbed his phone and began bombarding Kate with messages. "Kate, sweetheart, please pick up. I'm outside the apartment. They're kicking me out. I know I was wrong. I messed up last night. I was stressed from work. You know about my asthma. Please don't torture me like this. Kate, remember us? Remember our honeymoon in Hawaii? I'm still your legal husband. Answer me, you bitch. Don't think you can just step all over me because you have money. Honey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten. Don't you feel sorry for me?" The messages all showed 2 blue check marks. Read. But there was no reply. The silence was more terrifying than any shouting match. Ethan realized he was screaming at a concrete wall. That night, Ethan was forced to stay in a damp, cheap motel after his credit cards were declined at a decent hotel. Felicia, having nowhere else to go, joined him with a sour face. In the cramped, smoke-filled room, they sat cross-legged on the bed, eating instant ramen cups, a pathetic contrast to the gala dinner the night before. "We can't just do nothing, Ethan," Felicia said, stirring her noodles with a plastic fork, a cunning glint in her eye. "Your wife. I mean, our former boss. She thinks she can do whatever she wants just because she has money. What can we do?" "She has everything," Ethan replied hopelessly. "We have something she doesn't," Felicia shot back. "Public opinion." She pulled out her phone. "In this day and age, rich people who oppress the poor are public enemy number 1. We'll flip the script." "What do you mean?" "We'll create a sob story. We'll make it go viral. We'll say you were a loyal husband who was with her when she had nothing. Then, she suddenly inherited a fortune, became arrogant, cheated on you with that old European investor, Mr. Beaumont, and then kicked you out of the house without a penny to your name. People in this country love to pity a victim who looks poor." Ethan hesitated for a moment. "But what if we get caught lying? Who's going to listen to a clarification from a billionaire? The internet mob loves to attack first and think later. If the Sterling Group's reputation tanks and their stock drops, she'll panic and give us hush money." Greed reignited in Ethan's eyes. The idea sounded plausible. He felt entitled to some compensation. That very night, they recorded a video of Ethan, his face intentionally disheveled, not hard, since he genuinely was, and his eyes red, speaking into Felicia's phone camera. "Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan. I'm just an ordinary employee. My wife, Kate, just revealed she's the owner of the company where I work. For no reason, she fired me, kicked me out of my home, and threw my clothes in the trash. She's cheating on me with a foreign investor. I have nothing left. Please help me." Ethan even managed to squeeze out some crocodile tears at the end. Felicia edited the video with dramatic, sad music, added captions like, "The tragic story of a husband thrown away by his billionaire wife," and uploaded it to TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. She also paid a few anonymous gossip accounts with the last of her savings to repost the video. Within hours, the video exploded. Vicious comments started pouring in. "That wife is insane. A classic case of new money forgetting where she came from. Boycott the Sterling Group. Thinks she can treat her husband like dirt just because she's rich. Poor guy. He looks so sincere. Let's make this viral so his wife faces social consequences." Ethan read the comments with a satisfied smirk in his dingy motel room. He felt like he was winning. He felt like he had an army. "Take that, Kate," Ethan whispered. "You may have the money, but I have the masses." The next morning, Chaos erupted in the lobby of the Sterling Tower. A swarm of entertainment reporters and a group calling themselves the Alliance for Mistreated Husbands were protesting in front of the building. The Sterling Group's stock dipped 2% at the opening bell. On the top floor, in the luxurious chairman's office, Kate watched the news report on a large television screen. Her face was calm, betraying no panic. Mr. Sterling stood beside her, looking furious. "Miss Winthrop, this has gone too far. They are slandering your name and the company's. Should we hold a press conference?" "A long, boring press conference is unnecessary, Mr. Sterling," Kate replied casually, sipping her chamomile tea. "The public is smart, but they need visual proof. Countering a narrative with another narrative is an endless cycle. But countering a narrative with cold, hard facts? That's fatal." Kate pointed to the laptop on her desk. "Has the IT team prepared the hotel's security footage from that night?" "Yes, ma'am. High-definition quality. The audio is also quite clear, as you and Mr. Price were coincidentally standing near a decorative pillar that housed a microphone." "Excellent. And the evidence of Felicia's corruption and Ethan's data manipulation? Ready in the form of easy-to-understand infographics. Release it all. Now, to all of the company's official social media channels, and send a press release to the same gossip accounts that spread Ethan's video last night." Mr. Sterling nodded and signaled to the PR team. At 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the Sterling Group's official accounts posted a 3-minute video with a simple caption, "The truth doesn't need drama." Here are the facts regarding the incident on February 2nd at the Grand Majestic Hotel and the reasons for the termination of Mr. Ethan Price. The video displayed crystal-clear security footage. It showed Ethan dragging Kate. It showed Ethan berating her. And then, the most crucial moment. The moment Ethan spat patooey in Kate's face, his voice clearly audible, screaming, "A cheap hooker like you doesn't deserve to be here." The video continued to the next slide. Proof of Ethan's texts ordering Kate to bring the medicine, but forbidding her from coming inside. Proof of Felicia's luxury purchases using company funds, and the graphs showing Ethan's data manipulation. The effect was instantaneous and explosive. The netizens who had been defending Ethan felt utterly deceived. Their anger reversed course 180 degrees with 10 times the force. The comments on Ethan's video, once full of support, turned into a torrent of horrific abuse. "You scum, you spat on your wife. What kind of monster are you? I can't believe I fell for this. You're a manipulative, gaslighting, victim-playing piece of trash. No wonder you got fired. You're a corrupt thief working with your mistress. Disgusting. And that homewrecker has some nerve. Stealing company money and still trying to act classy. Vile." Ethan and Felicia were having lunch at a Greasy Spoon diner near the motel when their phones began buzzing incessantly. They weren't notifications of support, but of threats. Ethan's phone vibrated so intensely it felt hot. "What is this?" Ethan opened Twitter. The hashtags number Ethan the Scumbag and number Team Billionaire Wife were trending number 1. His face, Felicia's face, and even the address of their motel had been spread online by doxers. "They know we're here!" Felicia shrieked, staring at her phone in terror. "Someone said they're coming here to throw eggs at us." Suddenly, 2 large men in leather jackets walked into the diner. They scanned the room, and their gaze locked onto Ethan. "Ethan Price?" one of the men asked gruffly. Ethan swallowed hard. "Yes. Who are you? Reporters?" "No. We're from the auto finance company," the man said, showing him a document. "The payments on your SUV are 3 months delinquent, and we've been informed you are no longer employed. We're here to repossess the vehicle. Now." "What? No, you can't. That's my only way to get around." Ethan stood up, trying to resist. "The keys, sir. Or we call the police and report you for felony theft of a secured asset." Outside the diner, a crowd was beginning to form. They recognized Ethan's face from the viral video. Whispers turned into shouts. "Hey, that's the guy who spat on his wife. Get him." Ethan looked out the window. A mob was growing angrier by the second. In front of him, debt collectors were demanding his keys. Beside him, Felicia was crying and blaming him for everything. Ethan Price, who just 24 hours ago felt like he was about to conquer the world, was now trapped in the corner of a dingy diner, besieged by his own sins, all of which had come to collect their due. The family court of New York County was more chaotic than a street fair. The parking lot was packed with satellite news trucks from various TV stations. The billionaire wife versus scumbag husband divorce case had become a national obsession. In the respondents' waiting area, Ethan sat alone in the corner of a hard wooden bench. His appearance was a far cry from the Ethan of a week ago. The suit he wore was an old one, a bit too tight and wrinkled, the only one left at his parents' house. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken with thick, dark circles, and his usually slick hair was dull and unkempt. Felicia was not by his side. She had vanished the moment the company's lawsuit was served at her apartment. Ethan was alone, completely and utterly alone. Case B-45, Price versus Anderson, a clerk's voice called over the loudspeaker. Ethan dragged his feet into the courtroom. The flashes of cameras from the reporters allowed just outside the door blinded him. A chorus of boos and insults like, "Deadbeat loser," could be heard from a crowd of onlookers. As Ethan sat in the respondent's chair, the door on the other side of the room opened. Kate walked in. The room fell silent, then a wave of audible admiration swept through. Kate wore a bespoke suit made of silk batik in shades of gold and black. Her hair was in a modern updo, her face serene and radiant. She was flanked by a team of lawyers from a top-tier law firm. An aura of power emanated from her. Ethan swallowed hard. This was the woman who used to kiss his hand every morning. Now, he couldn't even meet her gaze. "Mr. Price, respondent," the judge began, "is it true that you are contesting this petition for divorce?" Ethan leaned into the microphone with a trembling hand. "That's correct, Your Honor. I still love my wife. What happened was just a moment of emotional distress. I am begging for a second chance." Kate's lead attorney immediately stood up. "Objection, Your Honor. The video evidence clearly shows verbal and physical abuse, the act of spitting, which was intended to degrade our client's dignity. That was not a moment of distress. That is his character." The judge nodded. "Any other response, Mr. Price?" Ethan bit his lip. His remorseful husband plan had failed. He moved on to plan B, money. "If we must get a divorce." Ethan's voice was quiet but clear in the silent room. "Then I demand a division of assets. Over our 3-year marriage, Catherine's wealth has grown substantially. As her husband, I am entitled to 50% of my wife's assets, including her shares in the Sterling Group." The courtroom buzzed with murmurs and scoffs at Ethan's shamelessness. Kate didn't get angry. She actually smiled, a thin, knowing smile. She whispered something to her lawyer. The lawyer nodded and handed a thick document to the judge's clerk. "Your Honor," Kate's lawyer said, "the respondent seems to be suffering from amnesia. This is a prenuptial agreement, signed by Mr. Price 3 years ago, exactly 1 week before their wedding." Ethan's eyes widened. "What agreement?" The lawyer continued. "Article 1. All property and assets owned prior to or acquired by either party during the marriage shall remain the sole and separate property of that party. Article 2. All debts incurred by either party shall be the sole responsibility of that party." Ethan racked his brain, recalling the past. 3 years ago, he thought Kate was a poor woman with a family buried in debt back home. Ethan, whose career was just taking off, was terrified of being saddled with her family's financial burdens. So when Kate had presented him with a separation of property agreement, he had signed it immediately, without reading the details, thinking, "Good, this will protect me from going broke if her family goes bankrupt." Who knew that the signature he thought was protecting him from Kate's poverty was now protecting Kate's $1 trillion fortune from his greed? "Mr. Price," the judge asked, holding the document, "is this your signature?" Ethan felt limp. He remembered that moment, a moment of his own past arrogance that had just destroyed his future. "Yes, Your Honor," he answered weakly. "Then the demand for division of assets is summarily denied." Bang! The judge's gavel sounded like a death sentence for Ethan's financial hopes. The court recessed for an hour before the final ruling. Ethan walked out of the courtroom dejectedly, intending to get a drink of water. But in a quiet hallway, he saw a familiar figure, Felicia. She was talking seriously with one of Kate's lawyers. She no longer looked glamorous. Her face was puffy, her hair tied back messily. "Felicia," Ethan called out. Felicia turned. Instead of being happy to see him, her face soured. She quickly shook the lawyer's hand and then approached Ethan with a hostile glare. "What do you want?" she snapped. "Felicia, where have you been? I've been looking for you. We need to come up with a new plan. I just lost on the asset claim, but maybe we can countersue for defamation or—" Felicia laughed, a hollow sound. "There is no we anymore, Ethan. You're a sinking ship, and I refuse to go down with you." "What are you talking about?" "I just made a plea bargain with the Sterling Group's legal team," Felicia revealed without a hint of guilt. "I agreed to be the key witness to expose every single piece of data manipulation you did at the office for the last 2 years. I'm giving them all the original files, the chat logs of your orders, everything." Ethan stumbled back a step, shocked. You sold me out?" "I have to save myself, Ethan," Felicia retorted, tears of frustration in her eyes. "The company is suing me for $1 million in restitution for the embezzled funds. I don't have that kind of money." Their offer was simple. "I testify that you were the mastermind, and they dropped the civil suit against me. I'll just get a fine and some community service." "Of course I took the deal." "You traitor! You snake!" Ethan hissed, reaching for her, but Felicia slapped his hand away in disgust. "Get real, Ethan. You're the one who taught me to be a snake. You taught me to do whatever it takes to climb the ladder. Now your student is just using your lessons against you. You should be proud." Felicia straightened her blouse and looked Ethan up and down with contempt. "Besides, I've just realized, you're not even that good looking when you're broke. You're just a pathetic loser who's only brave enough to spit on his wife. Goodbye, Ethan. I hope you enjoy prison when this fraud case goes criminal." Felicia turned and walked away, leaving Ethan frozen in the courthouse hallway. The cold air conditioning was nothing compared to the chilling reality that he was now completely and utterly alone in the world. The person he thought loved him, Felicia, had only ever loved his money. And the person who had truly loved him for who he was, Kate, he had thrown away. Ethan slumped to the floor, covering his face with his hands. He wanted to cry, but his tears had run dry. At 2 p.m., the court session resumed. The judge read the final verdict in a loud, clear voice. The court grants the petitioner's complaint in its entirety. A decree of divorce is hereby entered between the respondent, Ethan Price, and the petitioner, Catherine Anderson. It is further ordered that there will be no division of marital assets based on the valid prenuptial agreement. The respondent is ordered to pay all court costs. Ethan just stared at the floor, his ears ringing. It was official. He was a divorcee, a broke divorcee. "Mr. Price, do you accept this ruling?" the judge asked. Ethan had no strength left to fight. "I accept, Your Honor." The session was closed. The gavel struck 3 times. People began to file out. Kate stood up, shook her lawyer's hands, and turned to leave. Driven by a final impulse of desperation, Ethan broke through the security line and ran towards her. "Kate, wait!" 2 large bodyguards immediately grabbed Ethan's shoulders. "Back off, sir." Kate stopped. She gestured for her bodyguards to give him some space but to remain alert. She turned to face Ethan. They were only 6 feet apart, but it felt like 2 different worlds. "Kate." Ethan panted, his eyes wet. "I'm so sorry. I swear. I regret everything. I miss your cooking. I miss our home. Please, Kate, give me one more chance. I promise I'll be a good husband. I don't need your money. I just need you." Kate stared at Ethan intently. There was no hatred in her eyes, only a cold pity. And that was far more painful for Ethan to bear. "Ethan," Kate said softly, "you don't miss me. You miss your comfortable life. You miss having someone to serve you, to wash your clothes, and to adore you even when you were wrong." "No, Kate, I love you." Love doesn't spit, Ethan, Kate cut him off sharply. The sentence was a dagger to his heart. Listen to me carefully, Kate continued. The Ethan I once loved died that night in the hotel lobby. The man standing in front of me now is just a pathetic stranger. Never look for me again. Live with the consequences of your choices. Kate turned her back. The sweep of her silk suit jacket filled the air. She walked out of the courtroom doors, greeted by the flash of cameras like a celebrity. Ethan was left behind in the empty room. He watched her back recede, further and further, until she disappeared. It was then that he realized the door to his paradise on earth had just closed forever. 6 months later, the New York City sky was a bruised gray, dumping a torrential rain that flooded the city streets. Under the awning of an electronics store in a gritty neighborhood, a man huddled for shelter, clutching his soaked green jacket. It was Ethan. He was almost unrecognizable. His skin was sunburnt and rough, his body rail-thin from irregular meals. His once white veneers were now yellowed from the cheap cigarettes he smoked to stave off hunger. After being fired and his case going viral, no company would hire him. His name was on every HR blacklist in the country. His friends abandoned him, and his family back home, ashamed, refused to help. His car had been repossessed, his savings depleted. He ended up as an Uber Eats driver on a rented scooter. Ping! The app on his cracked phone screen chimed. An order came in. A food delivery. 50 premium bento boxes. Destination: Sterling Tower, 40th floor, VIP lobby. Ordered by Executive Secretariat. Ethan's heart stopped for a second. Sterling Tower. His old office. He wanted to cancel, but his performance rating was already poor. One more cancellation and his account could be suspended. He wouldn't be able to eat today. With a trembling hand, he accepted the order. An hour later, Ethan arrived at the back entrance of the Sterling Tower, the one reserved for couriers and deliveries. He used to enter through the grand front lobby, greeted respectfully by the security guards. Now, he was yelled at by the same guard for parking his scooter in the wrong spot. "Hey! Delivery guys use the freight elevator! Don't dirty the guest lobby!" the guard barked. He didn't recognize Ethan. The once dapper manager was now just another one of the thousands of tired faces on the street. Ethan kept his head down, carrying 2 large plastic bags of food. He entered the freight elevator, which smelled of garbage and stale air. The elevator ascended to the 40th floor. Ding! The doors opened. Ethan stepped out into the corridor he used to walk down every day. Everything was the same, yet it felt alien. "Delivery? For the board meeting?" A young, pretty receptionist asked. "Yeah," Ethan answered, his voice hoarse. He placed the food on her desk. Suddenly, the main conference room door opened. A group of people walked out. Ethan instinctively ducked his head, pulling his helmet down further to hide his face. "Excellent work, everyone. This quarter's report exceeded all targets," a very familiar female voice said. Ethan peeked through his fogged-up helmet visor. Kate. She was walking among a group of international executives, looking incredible in a chic, dark gray blazer, laughing at a colleague's joke. On her finger was not the simple gold wedding band Ethan had bought her on an installment plan, but a large, brilliant diamond ring, a symbol of her independence. Walking beside Kate was a tall, handsome, and intelligent-looking man. He held the door open for Kate with a polite, protective gesture. Kate smiled at him, a genuine smile that once belonged only to Ethan. "Thank you, David," Kate said to the man, the new chief operating officer. It was the position Ethan had once dreamed of, the position he was certain would be his. Now, it was filled by someone else, someone clearly more competent and ethical. Ethan felt a crushing weight on his chest, as if a ton of concrete was pressing down on him. He wanted to scream, "That's my wife! This is my office!" But the words were stuck in his throat. He realized he was nobody here anymore. He was just the delivery guy. "Sir? Sir, delivery guy?" The receptionist's voice snapped Ethan out of his trance. "Here's your tip. Thanks for delivering in the rain." She held out a $5 bill. Ethan stared at it. $5. This used to be the cost of his valet parking. Now, it was the price of his dinner. With a trembling hand, Ethan took the money. "Thanks." He turned and shuffled back to the freight elevator. Just as the doors were about to close, he saw Kate one last time. She seemed to glance over towards the reception desk, as if sensing something, but then she shrugged and went back to laughing, walking towards her bright future. The elevator doors shut, sealing Ethan off from the world he had so carelessly thrown away. That evening, the rain had stopped, leaving the New York air cool and damp. Kate stood on the balcony of her penthouse apartment, looking out over the sea of glittering city lights below, like a carpet of diamonds. A cup of warm tea was in her hand. Her phone rang. "Caller ID. Mr. Sterling." "Hello, Charles," Kate said. "Good evening, Miss Winthrop. Sorry to disturb you. I just wanted to report that the post-Ethan audit is complete. The company is now completely clean of all fraudulent elements. Our stock hit a record high today." Kate smiled, relieved. "Thank you, Charles. You've worked incredibly hard. Please get some rest." "One more thing, ma'am." Mr. Sterling's tone became hesitant. "The receptionist mentioned this afternoon that an Uber Eats driver who delivered lunch seemed odd. He stared at you for a long time. From the description, she thinks it might have been your ex-husband." Kate was silent for a moment. She sipped her tea, feeling the warmth spread through her. She recalled that moment at the office. She had felt a pair of eyes on her, a gaze full of pain and regret. Was she angry? No. Was she sad? Not anymore. Did she miss him? Not at all. "Let him be, Charles," Kate replied. "Everyone has their own path in life. He is living the consequences of his choices, and I am living mine. As long as he doesn't bother me, consider him a stranger." "Very well, ma'am. You are truly wise." "Not wise, Charles. I'm just done. The old book is closed. I have no desire to reread the same page over and over again." The call ended. Kate placed her cup on the balcony table. She saw her reflection in the glass. It was no longer the disheveled woman waiting anxiously for her husband to come home. She saw a strong, independent, and free woman. She remembered her father's words to her long ago. "Kate, you are a diamond. Don't ever let yourself be covered in mud. And if someone throws you in the mud, just shine so brightly that the mud dries up and falls right off." Kate smiled wide. She stretched out her arms, taking a deep breath of the night air. Free. It felt absolutely wonderful. Down below, on the congested streets, perhaps Ethan was huddling under an overpass, lamenting his fate. But up here, Catherine Anderson Winthrop was ready to welcome the dawn with her head held high. She didn't need a prince on a white horse. She was the queen of her own castle. And so, the story of the despised sultan's wife ended not with bloody revenge, but with a success so brilliant it was the most devastating and elegant retaliation of all. Dear listeners who have accompanied me until the end of my story, how did you find today's tale? I'm curious about the impression it has left in your hearts and the thoughts it has sparked in you. Please feel free to share your impressions and opinions in the comments. I will carefully read each of them. The likes and subscriptions you give me are the greatest source of strength and motivation for creating better stories in the future. Please don't forget to do so. I sincerely wish that your life is always filled with happiness and good fortune, and that the warm light in your hearts never fades.